So you finally made the right decision and decided to start arm wrestling. But you're worried that you're going to break your arm. Well, have no fear, because today we're going to teach you how not to do that. So, the main fear while arm wrestling is, of course, the arm break. And it pretty much only occurs in what's called the arm break position. Now that is when you have your chest pointed away from your arm, and then your opponent drives sideways, putting a lot of pressure on the humerus, which will then make it snap. In order to avoid that, just point your chest towards your hand all the time, even when you're losing. Go ahead. Now I'm pointing my chest towards my hand here. There's no risk of my arm being broken. The second major injury is the bicep tear. Now this will typically happen when you're extended and then your opponent drives to the side. In order to avoid that, just stay close to your arm at all times. Nice and easy. So now let's talk about what you can and cannot do on the arm wrestling table during a match. The match starts when you come to the table and you try to find a grip with your opponent. If you can find a grip that you're both happy with, then the match starts. If you can't find a grip that you're happy with, then the referee will put you in a set grip. And any movement in a set grip is a foul. 2 fouls and you lose the match. Now, let's talk about some other types of fouls. The most common is an elbow foul. This happens when my elbow either slips off the pad or comes up. Essentially, my elbow has to stay anywhere on the pad, but I can move it. I can also move my body around like this and make wrist movements and hand movements, and that's all totally legal and in fact encouraged. Now let's talk about some more niche rules. You can't bring your arm wrestling shoulder over the center line of the table. Now when I say center line, I mean the line between these 2 pegs. You always have to have at least 1 foot on the ground, so you cannot jump while arm wrestling. You also, in most leagues, cannot have your humerus, which is this part of the arm, in a declined position. That means pointing towards the floor when your hand is either in the middle or on the losing side of the table. However, you can have a decline if you're in the winning side. The match stops when you bring your opponent's wrist or fingertips or anywhere in between below a pin line. This table doesn't have a pin line, but a proper table will have one right here. So as long as I get his wrist to fingertips below there, that's a win for me. So you're arm wrestling, and everything's going totally fine, and all of a sudden, that happens. Well, when that happens, you actually quit and go home. Just kidding. The ref will put on what's called a strap. Now, the strap is tied like so. The buckle goes on someone's hand. The thumbs are closed in order to hold the strap. And then the strap is looped first around the person who has the buckle on their hand. Then it comes around the other person and then is threaded through. Now, threaded just through one loop, not both. Then the strap is fastened using the buckle. Once the strap is on, the arm wrestling match begins as it would when the strap is off. The ref says go, and you start arm wrestling. A couple things to note. It's useful to have this part of the strap anchored as low as possible on your forearm so that you can have the least rotational force on your joint, which means I can pull back more easily when it's lower on my arm.